Really big match for him. As we get into the top left, our blue Protoss from Alpha X, Astrea.
Sending out a probe. What's up with that? In the bottom right, as the red Protoss, we have Trigger.
Sending out a probe.
What's up?
Natural pylon gateway thing?
Yes. Yeah. That is interesting, figuring that Trigger would take the opportunity to low ground expand on a map that, you know, does allow you to. And I guess Trigger has, from what I can recall, yeah, given in a ramp on a natural, he has done this. But to be so bold as to do gateway proxy against it, that is something. Unfortunately for Trigger, he did not get the fastest scout possible.
Yeah.
He will now figure something is up.
Yeah, the problem is if he assumes it's in his, if it's a proxy but it's not in his base, it's very possible he just goes for a wall-off defense at the front and the Zealot's just going to march into his main base, right? Like, or like you're walling off so you get a cannon behind the wall, but then the Zealots just jump on the cannon. Like, whichever way it is, like, this is not good for Trigger because he doesn't have the information he needs as to where this proxy is. He has no clue.
This is so dirty.
Yeah.
This is so dirty.
What a way to rattle your opponent in game one.
Did you ever watch
Courage the Cowardly
Courage
Dog?
the Cowardly Dog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he sees it. Yes.
There's that one where the barber, dirty. That's what I'm thinking right now.
I was wondering where this was going. I was like, oh yeah.
It's very dirty.
I mean, the scout is big, right? Because now you can start getting a cannon up in a little bit better position to deal with this, which is, you know, in my eyes was the initial problem. We had to surround with the probes, and we are going to get one zealot quickly. It's costing 3 workers, but of course time is, you know, something you really want to buy. Get this cannon up, and life should get a bit easier, but 3 zealots at a time is hard to match. There's a stalker on the way that can start poking from afar, and, well, I mean, this situation is, it's far from resolved, put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Far from resolved. You'd think that this would have been victory no matter how you you defend it, but apparently not. Apparently this build still is not very good, even if you put it right on up there in the natural. It still dies. Trigger, I guess, give kudos to a cannon defense, but there's I would say there's no other option because clearly it's all in. The gateways are somewhere where they're not supposed to be, but I think a lot of other Protosses might have just put a second gateway down and said, you know, defensive wall would do the trick. So definitely got to give kudos to that. The ability to place the cannon on that ramp really helped out. Shield battery in the mains, good choice for the future. It'll be done soon. Actually, the Adept got corralled.
Yeah, it's gonna shade out more probes. Gonna get killed on it. I mean, we're losing quite a lot of probes here, so there is work being done. The Stalk's just gonna prioritize working their way through the pylons, because once these 2 pylons are dead, no more Adepts. So then you're kind of home free, but there is going to be, I guess, Warp Gate now starting from Astrea back at home, and potentially a follow-up if he doesn't, you know, if he doesn't have damage, which so far he's kind of doing. The probes pull all the way down to the low ground now. I don't mind Trigger's idea of, like, shut down these pylons and stop any further Adepts, but, like, the current Adepts already did so much damage.
They did. They've certainly done enough damage to make this a possible macro game for Astrea. Keep in mind that he still has the, I guess, worse... Well, no, hold on. No, Trigger never got Warp Gate. Yeah, no, Trigger's in a little trouble. Trigger has no ability to counter attacks, even though Astrea's natural is, like, technically more vulnerable. There's not enough to really push it, so Trigger's just down 11 workers. He's gonna kill his own Forge to get out. Is that cannon blocking the Nexus too?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I think it is, right?
I'm pretty sure it is.
There's absolutely no way. The angle of the Nexus there. Stalkers will go across the map. There is currently no units, but as Robo finishes, we start an Immortal, and we did see earlier 9 Stalkers can absolutely blitz through an Immortal's barrier. This ain't 9, this is 3.
Yeah, a third of the damage, in fact. Now, if this had happened faster, perhaps that pylon would have been in trouble, but the Immortal is over halfway out, and it will hold against the 3 Stalkers, no problem. At least they got the probe. Something.
It is something, yeah. Robo is going to be finishing up that Immortal. Man, it was actually very close to these Stalkers getting the pylon, so It was actually really important that, you know, Astrea bought as much time as he did on the other side. Now Trigger starts up a Stargate, and I still wonder where we actually go from here. Obviously, the gateway, the warp gate finished from Astrea, but he doesn't actually have gateways at the moment because they're all depowered on the other side of the map. And maybe we get the Prism, power them up, warp in, and then boom, attack from the natural.
Oh my god! Oh, big brain, Wardy. Big brain. I think that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to push away the Stalkers with the Immortal and the Warp Prism together, and then try and go over to his gateways to power them.
It has to be the plan to some extent, right? Like, at least try and get a warp in.
Yeah. Dude, if Astrea's not thinking about this, he doesn't deserve the title of most genius North American StarCraft 2 player. You do, Wardy.
Not North American, but I'll take it.
All right. Yeah, well, that's why I changed it to StarCraft player. But all right. Okay, Wardy's much smarter. He should be playing this game, not Astrea. Jeez.
I mean, until you come over here with the Prism and get shot down by Stalkers, and you're like, huh, that was a terrible idea. But we'll just pretend it would have worked perfectly until proven otherwise, so...
There needs to be some fashion of a tournament where you'd be, like... It's impossible because StarCraft's too fast of a game, but where either the casters or Twitch chat can like vote or tell what the players to do, and then witness them try to do it, and then witness how often we are totally stupid and it never works, and how often they miss an opportunity. You know, there's got to be some way to make a tournament like that.
It probably is. That sounds like a lot of work, though. I'm not down.
Wardy's just like, that's not gonna be mine.
That sounds like a fear-drugging tournament. Second Stargate, by the way, is our first Oracle shows up, and man, there's just so much from Astrea. Like, he's genuinely up like 25 supply at the moment, and like I said at the start, what a way to kind of like rattle your opponent at the start of a series. You go super balls to the wall, just proxy gates in the natural. Then you kind of get the scout, and you have the initial hope looking really good, and you just completely flop against the adepts to give your opponent a massive lead following up. Like, that was really suck as we try for the stasis ward here. It will not be killed. And he only catches a couple of probes. Obviously, we do pay attention. The Oracle in the natural doesn't find anything.
There's an observer in Trigger's base that is only currently seeing one Stargate, but as soon as it sees a Phoenix, I was going to say it probably just figures it out anyways, but now it's scouted both. I loved this idea that you could maybe get the... You could just play weird, right? You could get the jump on Astrea because who expects double Phoenix after this play? Who expects anything after this play? But now that Astrea knows, I think the one thing that could have really screwed over Astrea is that he thinks, oh, Blink's done, I can just walk across the map. If there was 8 Phoenix waiting, that could have been a problem. But now that he knows, get a third base, stay at home, play up defensively, and Trigger's still going to be in a lot more trouble.
Oh, yeah. Like, Astrea just has absolutely no need to rush out and do anything. Get +1, get Blink. Your opponent's about to play Mass Phoenix into you, and you're like, well, cool, kill a few probes. I'm going to have 3 bases of production to kind of rebuild them with, and just in general, I think Astrea can be very happy with this first game here. Just looking super good for him. Like, I don't think these Phoenix pose a threat anymore. He knows about it. He can set up as he feels necessary. But yeah, just looking very good for Astrea. Not really much else to add. Just Trigger's in a whole bunch of trouble. Like, everything Trigger really tried on the follow-up didn't really do much of anything. And talk about being in a good position. Astrea's going to double expand. Because he just knows the Phoenix can't actually do anything threatening right now.
Well, they certainly can't threaten a building, so that's the easiest thing to go for. And even if they tried to fly by and take advantage of maybe Astrea's smaller stalker count, you know, are they going to make up for all of the advantages of earlier on? Probably not. They'd have to kill at least 10 probes, and even that wouldn't be enough before Nexus finish. So, Trigger, I don't know what his follow-up plan is. And I don't know what's best. I'm actually kind of leaning towards maybe going for Immortals and then into Fleet Beacon, like a King Cobra thing.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think that'll work, just to be clear. But I don't think going into Disruptors, for instance, would also work. If I'm thinking of comeback mechanics, right? Absurdities that could actually do something, and nothing really comes to mind as a totally viable solution.
Sometimes there just isn't one. Like, you know, like sometimes you just behind in such a way that you're not really meant to come back into it. You try and come in over here with the Oracles, but the Blink will get rid of one of them, and I mean, for the couple of probes that I lost, they're so easily replaced. 4 bases up and running, and the Phoenix, another one of those goes down. Trigger's going to drop the Fleet Beacon. He's in a world of trouble. He's got to play something absolutely weird and wonderful, and he's going to experiment with the Fleet Beacon, but I think we can see that at some point Astrea just A-clicks across the map, and that's probably good enough to close this game one out.
Okay, so Trigger's gonna try and go for capital ships and disruptors, which I went 2 different directions, figuring he could only afford one. He's gonna try to afford both. You know, he might be able to afford both, but, you know, one at a time is not really gonna add up to very much. I also would like this a lot more if Astrea didn't have so much scouting and so much confidence because of the scouting. If he was him and Han and delaying his 4th Nexus and, I don't know, attacking in haphazardly, it'd be different. But Trigger doesn't know he's been thoroughly scouted, might be figuring it, but he's not really supposed to be getting away with this. I freaking love the mothership and love it.
Yeah, mothership is, I mean, sure, why the heck not? At this stage, I mean, Trigger's just going to try and make it up as we go along. Here we go. I mean, Astrea's attacking. Don't think the mothership's going to save him in this scenario, but what was going to save him in this scenario? A mothership, a carrier, and a disruptor. The holy trinity of Protoss, apparently. But like we say, I mean, Astrea just has so much. He's attacking into... The best part about this is like the 3 cannons and the 2 batteries, and you know that's really giving them some credit, which is probably not even due. This is obviously not pretty at all. If your name is Trigger, Astrea also has amazing upgrades, and the start of this game was just way too good as maybe the disruptor shot. Oh, not even that. Not even that. GG's Astrea takes the lead.
I love that Trigger tried to get his way out of that, you know? I freaking love it, but... Those Adepts did too much damage.
They did.
That is the simple part of it. The Zealots absolutely did not. They absolutely did not, but I guess what they did is they forced a response in the natural, and so you couldn't just easy peasy get a wall up in the main. You know, you can't get the cannons, the units, and a main wall. Or maybe you could have, and it just didn't occur to Trigger to try and even do that, because, you know, what was that last game?
I think it's just a case of obviously just ignored the Adepts in the main, like he just let the probes deal with it, which was fine for the first one, but then when there was so many more coming out, like if he just sent his Stalkers up to the main, I know the Adepts keep producing, but then at least you're shutting down the Stalkers, the Adepts more quickly, or just pull the probes to the natural more quickly, because he could have pulled the probes away, killed the pylons, then dealt with the Adepts maybe, and I don't know, like he just did what I feel like was, at the end of the day, like the worst possible scenario, which was just let the probes try to fight Adepts, and then eventually he would like pull the probes away anyway. I don't think going after the pylons was a bad idea, just, you know, respect the Adepts, because the Adepts absolutely did so much more than I think Trigger was ever expecting them to.
True. Very true. Now, you're kind of in a difficult situation at that point. I mean, Adepts are literally just bypassing the walls that could be created by being in your base. So the only thing you could have done, because let's even say that he triple pylon walls the high ground, and then it's just like,
yeah,
do you break out your own main to get your natural? Like, I guess. But you still have to break your own wall in the main, your own cannon in the natural, and your own forge as well to even escape your base. Like, it would have been awkward no matter how you put it.
Yeah, no,
I want to see it again.
Yeah, rematch. Let's go round 2. We are heading into Raw Blood, and we'll see what exactly the plan is this time around as Astrea. I mean, to be fair, it's not unknown to him kind of being this kind of tricksy player that kind of shows up with kind of weird things at times. He was always very creative in the past, even playing kind of more normal, more macro-focused, kind of weirder things, but like, you know, it's not surprising to me to see Astrea showing up, proxying, and being like, yeah, I'm just going to make this series a little bit wild. He's not afraid to do that, and so far, benefiting him. He's up a game in the top right-hand corner from Alpha X, the blue Protoss player, Astrea.
Bottom left for Basilisk, he is Trigger. I want another one just like that.
Why is Astrea not sending the probe out, man?
Ah,
So boring.
Do something. I feel like sometimes as commentators for the Americans region, we're kind of like those people who are shouting at the skateboarders to do a flip.
Do a kickflip.
Yeah.
You do a kickflip and
My
they're
amusement.
like, oh.
Yeah, well, there's that. Sometimes that happens. I think more often it's like, my amusement is worth your suffering. We expect you to mess up. Do a kickflip. You beefed it. Boo. Astrea, do it again. Oh, you lost. Way to go.
So toxic.
Hecklers.
So toxic.
I know, right? Thing is, I was definitely never one of those, but I was the on the receiving end of heckles. I was in a snowboard park, chilling, and people were calling down from above. So I bowed to peer pressure and put a hole in my knee, trying to grind a rail. So that was fun.
The story took a dark turn really quickly.
It's okay. I just don't feel like when you press the scar, I just don't feel anything. It just like totally got rid of my nerves. That's fine.
That's gruesome. That makes me feel a bit tingly and weird. Like,
hey, that's kind of what it feels like. Anyways, point is, Astrea is kind of doing a flip. So thank you, Astrea. Probably it's gonna be something boring like a Stargate though.
Yeah, just we actually see 2 adepts on either side of the map, so I guess for the moment we have the tech, or the money to tech into the Stargate, and it is going to be the Stargate down from Astrea in the bottom right. Do we just go Stargate at home from Trigger? That would be my expectation. A Robo.
Yeah, with the adepts, I was also thinking Stargate versus Stargate, but no, his probe's gonna get in and, see that the 3rd pylon is building, but not the second one ever built, right? So it's gotta be somewhere out there. Yeah. And his idea is to immortal attack before the 2 oracles are out?
I have no idea, honestly. Like, I just was so not ready for the Robo off the 2 adepts, but I guess we'll see just what he builds out of it first. I mean, Immortal, Prism. I would say you go Immortal, then a Prism, then you just go. Right?
I think so. I think it's going to work. It's just, it is kind of it's timing based, right? The 2 oracles, especially if they don't get figured out. They could do a lot. 1 oracle right now could do a lot of damage. Oh, probe damage being done by Trigger's adepts, though. Astrea did not get that wall off, so a little bit of revenge from last game. First oracle is out. It will be headed directly towards the main. Astrea still having trouble. Uh-oh.
He's
this
really
is already
having
enough
trouble.
damage anyways.
Yeah, 8 workers already absolutely huge. Trigger put himself in a great spot, and he's going to get himself maybe the last one. Just doesn't get it. But 9 workers is still fantastic. Yeah, that was kind of surprising. The Adepts actually did a cool little juke at one point. Here's the Oracle to make up for some of that damage taken. 2 Stalkers only, and 5 workers in return, so good bounce back, honestly. Actually goes a long way to helping, so yeah, that is going to be both players losing a pretty hefty amount of workers. Trigger's only 3 workers ahead now. Obviously, he did his damage sooner, but Astrea is expanding after seeing it's a 1-base Robo. Huh. That's a very brave assumption. You can go for that.
I think he got it right as the Oracle swooped in. So, you don't cancel it at that point, right? I don't think so.
Full send. Okay, well.
I think so. Like, it's that weird thing, too, where sometimes the earlier you get the expansion, the earlier you can set your defenses, right? So something that could be greedy could actually be perfectly timed to give you a shield bounty overcharge. So that's maybe something that Astrea is also, well, kind of hoping that will happen. Right now, Trigger is harassing and getting a Twilight Council back at home. Is he going to go into a Dark Shrine? No, he can't. The Oracle's still around.
Yeah, the Oracle's still around. They did just grab 7 workers. Meanwhile, the Immortal Harass grabbed about 3 plus a Stalker or 2. Both players are really kind of laying it on each other here pretty quickly, and with Blink on the way, Trigger sets up into the position that we like the most. And Astrea is very much so still on a Stargate, 2 gateways, and that's kind of it. But obviously he's got an expansion versus what's turned into 1-base Blink. Because that's where these games go, apparently. The Immortal still being chased, but about to kill the Prism, though. Prism dead means dead Immortal. Wow. America. I love it.
Yeah, never change. Never change. I love this. This is like the dessert at the end of the dinner, Dinner was great, dinner was okay, dinner was wholesome. It gave me all my nutrients, and now I'm eating the big bowl of ice cream with chocolate syrup and cherries and stuff, so that's America's to me. That's America.
America.
Yeah. Trigger's Canadian, isn't he?
Yeah. Americas.
Americas. So Astrea, I think he's fine if he does get Immortals out, right? Like,
yeah.
Trigger's not playing a macro Blink game, so I don't like it as much.
Yes.
If he had a Nexus as well, I'd much prefer Blink, but this is an all-in into someone who is pretty prepared for it. Well, almost prepared for it. The Immortal is not out.
Immortal Chrono Boost. He has so much energy, by the way, as well in these Nexus. He can Chrono Boost for days, as he does see the Stasis Ward with the Observer, so that's not going to buy Astrea too much more time or anything. That's not going to be a big catch like we sometimes see. Blink is now done. Super Battery not helping to save that initial Stalker loss, and perfect number of Stalkers getting those one-shots. Good start from Trigger, as Astrea is in such desperate need of this Immortal. Keep Chrono Boosting it. We just blinked in, so it'd be a great time for the Immortal to show up and start chunking down these Stalkers. There goes the barrier. It disappears quickly. We've learned that that's how Immortals work today, and now we start blinking back. But the Immortal does provide a defense here, as the few probes just kind of hold positioning, trying to mess with the Stalkers a little bit, and yeah, it's kind of working. Astrea really kind of needed to just start a second Immortal, though. I feel like I appreciate he's not that rich, though, and Trigger just jumping on this, feeling like he can get the job done.
2 Immortals, I think, would be better than 2 extra Stalkers, and yeah, he definitely had the resources for it. It just was, it was also microing. That pylon's been vulnerable for a minute, so it's not surprising that finally went down. And Astrea, without the Immortal and with his Stalkers being one-shot, could not defend Trigger's eventual one-base blink all-in, which you'd think would mean that he loses the game. But if we turn one base to one base, he's not technically lost the game. He could still hold on, build up an army, and try and counterattack, because PvP is sometimes like that.
Supply block is
supply blocks.
Keeping the Observer away. He's trying to go Observe. I guess Observer to kill the Observer's opponent to remove high ground vision. Because my best guess, that's a very gnarly, dangerous force field. That would have killed an Immortal, obviously. Stalker's going to get a gateway, though. I mean, Astrea's not really been using the gates for a while. He is just going to get a Prism now instead of that Observer, so kind of changing his priorities. He needs the Prism. If he doesn't have the micro potential on the Immortals, he's 100% done for. I think he's in a lot of trouble either way. I think Trigger at this stage has done enough. He did get the strike early enough to kind of take a lead, and obviously now it's going to be very difficult. But we will see if Astrea can pull it off. Holding out. Extra gateway coming up a bit further back here. The Prism's about to join the fray, and let's see if it really can change things, EG. It's got some work to do.
It's got a lot of work to do. Couldn't really afford to do everything with that supply block, so the Observer only now coming out, he changed his priorities. So the Observer of Trigger has been able to detect everything. Seriously, losing that eyesight, losing that knowledge that you can blink on top of something, or the force field, right? Which is gonna maybe, well, now the Warp Prism's out, doesn't matter as much. Has been good for Trigger, so finally gonna clear that up. There's the Warp Prism pickup once the force field went down, so that wasn't too difficult. High ground has to now be given vision by the Warp Prism for Trigger, so that added a little bit of awkwardness, but he does get that last gateway. Now he pulls back into the Nexus being built. Now that literally just started for Trigger. So if Astrea can move away the Stalkers and also get his Nexus down, this is what I'm talking about. This could be a weird, even macro game. But one player has Blink, the other player has Immortals.
I will not lie, I really was not a believer, because I just really didn't think there was going to be enough Immortals to survive, and I really felt Trigger was just going to hit enough Stalkers to just jump on Immortals and just end it, but here we are. And Astrea loses a few probes, but should be able to build those back up. Obviously, we're oversaturated on one base anyway until that natural expansion is up, and we do really have a StarCraft game going on here, ZG. The Stalkers here in the main base going to try and chase down that Prism. Is going to get away for now.
Yeah, without Blink, dealing with a Warp Prism is exceptionally difficult. It's actually been one of the big reasons to ever get Blink, even when it wasn't truly meta. And that is adding in all these little bits of damage that ensure that Trigger will make it out ahead. Without the Warp Prism doing extra probe damage, Astrea would have a lot to transfer over. But that's the difference. Astrea cannot do the same thing in turn, because Trigger would chase his Warp Prism down.
The Immortals there just absolutely tanking a few shots and really providing some good value. They got a couple Stalker kills. They only lost shields. That's the kind of trades you want right now as Astrea to absolutely stay in this game. And wow, naturally in America's an 11-minute one base all in kind of becomes a macro game. So here we are. The Nexus is up on both sides. The Stalker's still trying to do something. I just do not feel like they're doing enough. Good micro back on the Immortal, keeping it out of trouble. And this is all done. The Prism dropped the Stalkers off. It's going to go back on the map, maybe get some harass into the mineral lines, maybe try and hit a couple of Adepts in somewhere. But yeah, this is very much so becoming a Much more even game. Forge on the way up from Trigger. We are seeing macro elements developing. Does Astrea have something to do? Like if Astrea just goes across the map and gets to the other side, does he just win? Like, is there trouble there for Trigger?
That's a legitimate question. The problem is usually getting across the map. So Stalkers have been controlled well. All the Immortal Shields could be popped, Force Fields could be baited out, and then the Warp Prism has to be handled like a baby, right? It's got to be made sure to keep alive, which is not a guarantee against someone who has Stalkers, and once they scout the move out, we'll certainly be building more. But Trigger actually deters the move out just with his Warp Prism harassment. I do like that Astrea got a Phoenix. It didn't even occur to me, of course, but he's got that Stargate still up and powered, so I think that is very worth it, considering how powerful Trigger's Warp Prism has been.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. Forced to recall right there. We do have the Oracle showing up on the natural. The battery is a bit far off from the mineral line initially, so Proba 2 going down. Just the one, I believe. I think Astrea turning away and actually not going is fine because there was a lot of sentries here and a lot of energy on them, so a lot of sentries could have caused issues. Again, I feel like Trigger keeps attacking into these Immortals like, I'm going to get something done. But there's a Prism. Like, the Prism is the get-out-of-jail-free card for these Immortals, and they just have it endlessly. So unless you deal with the Prism, all these fancy force fields and tagging the Immortals and trading, like, it just doesn't do anything. The Immortals are always getting out of there. So I'm confused why he keeps making these plays as though there's no Prism, because with the Prism, there's just nothing to really be done.
I do think that Trigger sometimes displays some youngster type StarCraft play, which is that I think this happens a lot more with Terrans. Grabs Astrea's Warp Prism, okay, but still doesn't have enough army to take on the Immortals.
Doesn't have a blink a recall out either, by the way, because he recalled the Prism not long ago. So these Stalkers are very stuck. They will make the most of it, getting a bunch of probes, but I mean that was another blink, and they are pretty much just doomed to die in this main base. So yeah, to be fair, gets a lot more probes than I expected. Gets 9, reasonable in the end.
It just completely evens out, though, or almost. Astrea is still a little bit ahead, but the supplies are weirdly even. Trigger has an upgrade lead and is about to have a charge lead. But to finish my thought, I think that Trigger sometimes does display over-eagerness. You know, he almost gets, well, too fancy, to use that word again. It just seems like he thinks he can do a lot more, and the truth is, maybe you could, but do you have to? And I think I'm with you. He didn't necessarily have to. He would have still had, you know, 10 Stalkers instead of 6 to kind of patrol around. And now trying to do an attack slightly before charge is actually done makes this a wee bit awkward. Most of the Zealots already dead. Now that there was a lot to begin with, Immortal juggling still working out for Astrea as well to hold on. Probes can be pulled because Astrea once again had a probe lead, and I don't think Trigger's attack is going to work. Once again, making the supplies completely even.
Yeah, I mean, Trigger just has 2 Immortals that in like the middle of the map, not joining in at all, and you know, we do have, Trigger has a bit of an army lead, +1 in play for him too. He has been building up his own Immortals, and eventually here he is going to have the full-on just Immortal advantage. In fact, he already has the full-on Immortal advantage. This Oracle around this entire game has been so annoying. Gets one more probe, realizing he can get out before we have a blink. Trigger's still going, though, on the other side, and I think this might just be where he actually has too much. The 4 Immortals is part of this fight, plus some charge lots. It's just not what we really need here to deal with this as Astrea, surely.
Yeah, usually an Archon would help out, at least against the Zealots or his own charge lots against his opponent's Immortals. That would actually be the ticket in here, but it does look like Trigger can finally push this through. He has just too diverse of an army compared to Astrea's rather one-dimensional one, really just the Immortals to depend on. And so finally, after 15 minutes and a lot of back and forth and a lot of question marks, Trigger has a game-winning lead. Just fact, it's game-winning, even though Trigger's once again lost his own probes.
Yeah, this one Oracle is just flying around and being quite the nuisance, quite the annoyance, so that continues. We do have a few more Zealots warping in here from Trigger, and just getting those ready to, well, press on forward. These Immortals obviously just less useful now, putting the Zealots on the map, and that was a big part of what was keeping Astrea in very good shape before. That is going to be GG's. Trigger ties it to 1-1, and we are going to game 3 with everything tied up. Wow.
Eventually, that tech advantage showed through, didn't it? That was a game and a half.
That was a game and a half. I mean, again, we start with the 1 base all in. We reset down to like 2 base-ish all ins. Kind of 3rd base coming up, but not really being used. It was a thing. It was a whole thing. Dragon Skills, map 3. America's, honestly. I think I said it during the game. I'll say it again. America's never fails to deliver. It's never simple in America. Like, you never really know what's going on until it happens.
That you do not. I did at least kind of expect it to even out, but the only reason I was even thinking about it evening out was because it would still be the most absurd option, like the funniest option. It happens, but I would say a lot of the time it is, you know, whoever's leading the charge wins. But because it's the Americas and because the games are looking the way that it did, I was like, well, the funniest thing would be if this turned into a macro game. So, of course, that's what happened. So kind of, because I expected the unexpected, I expected it.
The unexpected works out again. It bites once more. Let's dive into more games. I don't really know what else to say apart from just we have to kind of watch these games, know what's going to happen, to just experience them in general, because they're not the kind of games you just explain to someone really easily. So let's just let the games do the talk. In top left, Red Protoss from Basilisk, tying it up. Trigger.
To the bottom right as the blue Protoss, we do have Astrea.
Nice.
No probe.
Yeah, just the boring pylons on the low ground. What are they gonna do? Gateway, Stargate, expand?
You know what? I'm winning the Phoenix vs. Phoenix game.
America style. But every time they fight, they fully reset the Phoenix count to 0 and decide the best thing to do is to once again build Phoenix.
I want to be so rude. You know, we witnessed Max Packs with basically the most perfect Phoenix play, and we're just like, godlike, amazing. Put this guy on a pedestal ASAP. It's going to be the complete opposite. We're just going to watch both of them screw up so often.
The Phoenix, like, fly overhead, just move command through all the other Phoenix. And it's like, oh no. So then all the Phoenix counterattack, and you're like, well, he's going to win. Until the super battery pops and, like, 2 Phoenix solo the fleet. It's like, oh my god, what's happening?
Yeah.
So that's sort of nonsense.
That's what I would expect.
Yeah.
100%. And I know I just admitted that it's a bit rude, but here's the thing. I think, you know, we say sometimes players play up to particular levels. Like Astrea is a great example of someone who plays the level of his opponent. So he'll take on the best players, and then he'll struggle against what we would receive as worse players. Americas is the region of that, where it's just like they play to each other, and because they're both America, they're just like, this doesn't make any sense. Because if you watch Trigger in some of the European Open Cups or the North American Open Cups, I think he plays ultimately cleaner games. Yeah. Ditto for Astrea, even when Astrea is playing this weird, funky thing. So it's just the effect of being in the region. It really is. And now Astrea is going to go for the proxy gates, which Trigger does not scouts, has no idea. Yeah. If this was Stargate for Astrea, he could actually build shield batteries. Oh my god, he's going to build shield batteries anyways. Just on the forward line, not around the main base.
This is just kind of wild in general, isn't it, already? We see our Stargate coming up from Trigger. Little does he know that's going to have to be such a defensive one against this 4-gate play. It's a 1-gate expand. The 4th gate comes down, and we begin to go all in America.
Trigger's got to be expecting the aggression. He sees the 2 gates on the front lines. He sees a lacking pylon, at least one, actually both of them, and he still doesn't actually know how close he is to being attacked, warped in aggressively. There's not much he could do about it, even if he did know, is the trick, though, right? Like, he does not have as much production as his opponent. The major production he has is a Stargate that is only now starting his Void Ray, so he can't even punish Astrea's forward gateway if he wanted to, if he knew about it.
Yeah. That Void Ray is coming up, though. At least it is a Void Ray. He identifies correctly that he does need it. And, well, we kind of saw this one earlier. Oh, he's getting the Forge as well. Trigger is going full Max Packs. This is the Max Packs defense. I like it. I mean, this is on a high ground, though. So, I mean, in theory, this should be more defendable anyways, because your opponent has to run up the high ground every time. So, yeah, it's actually... Oh, is this a bait? Because the units are going to go hit the gateway on the left side, but the unit's at the front, and it's like, hey, what's up?
Hey! That was a bit of a bait. That was pretty funny. Trigger almost getting out of position because it was close to the Stalkers literally getting up on the high ground, and then they maybe could have targeted the Void Ray, the Shield Battery, or the Pylon. The multiple options would have been a little disturbing. But Astrea did not make it up on the high ground, does respect the power of the Void Ray and the shield batteries, moves back down, and waits for that power surge, that one shot, and perhaps waiting for Trigger to miss micro.
Void Ray gets another little nibble at those Stalkers. Adept taking some hits as well, nearly going down. We just have that gateway. Low HP. It's kind of chilling there. Across the map, Probe going to go back to nibbling the pylon as well. Stalker still fighting. We knock the gateway down, ZG. And we have ourselves a few moments of, kind of wait. It's kind of weird. Like, does this really ever work going up the ramp into the natural? Like, it feels so difficult to make anything out of. And oh, good force fields. There's a couple dead Stalkers. I feel like Astrea is just not going to break through. Or do you see some potential?
I think I still see some potential. Astrea, I think, needs 4 more stalkers, and then if he doesn't win it right there, he's not going to win.
You now need 6 more Stalkers. Oh, he gets a Void Ray.
The Void Ray got really low. Yeah, the Void Ray actually did get killed even after the supercharge was popped. This one, now Prismatic Alignment as well. So both of those key defensive spells are popped now. And there's only 1 Void Ray. The cannons are rather fearsome, but I'm also still looking at that one single pylon. I'm a little concerned.
Yeah,
you know, if you don't click on it fast enough.
Okay, I'm going to take it all back. There is a lot more potential than I really gave credit for. The pylon now! Just go for it. I guess there's another battery, but... Oh, okay, cool.
Well, now he's just going to wait till he has enough stalkers to one-shot the pylon, right?
I guess so. There's another pylon on the way up this time.
True. So he's already missed the opportunity. He is getting 2 sentries.
Yeah.
No, Trigger can't. No, yes. No, yeah. No, wait. Astrea could definitely win because literally Trigger's got nothing else.
Yeah.
He's got 1 gateway and cannons.
Oh, I mean, Astrea now just needs to break through the cannon line, and he just needs to go. I mean, if he kills this pylon, he still depowers 1 cannon on the right side, which is still worth it, right? So if you get rid of that 1 cannon, then you have a bit more space to move into the base with. Maybe? There's another cannon up on the left side. What if we single file? What if we conga line into the natural? Yeah, like this. There we go.
Poor stalkers are terrible at conga lining. They have such short arms.
They have to go in pairs, you know, help each other out. That's why they took some extra damage there, but it's all okay. Okay, they were in range on a conga line anyways, apparently. Never mind. Okay, cool. In we go to the back of the natural, and suddenly this cannon defense doesn't look so pretty. Doesn't look so great at all. Lose a pylon in the back. That's going to mean if you want to just go up into the main base, you can just go up into the main base. Super battery activates for...
Oh my god.
I have no idea why. And Astrea looks like he has got it done.
To help the probes.
The probes are going to one shot? What?
No, Trigger's obviously just trying to make do. Unfortunately, losing the Stargate and not having any backup production. Because with the Forge, you're kind of hoping that your front is insured. Yeah. You know, you got Void Rays, you got some warp-ins, and you have cannons. It should never be broken, is the idea. If it is broken, you don't have any backup plan. This is just further proof, by the way, that Max Pax is really the one who can do this.
Max Pax could have defended this with no ramp. And Trigger has, like, literally, like, 6 cannons, and it still doesn't work. That's just how difficult it is. You gotta figure out exactly when you pop the Void Rays. You gotta figure out when you pop the Super Battery. Don't let the Void Rays get taken down. There's a lot going on in these kind of fights. And, yeah, that's why, Max Pax, we praise him so much. And honestly, the more I see other people do things like this, the more respect I gain for Max Pax. Recently, like, I used to think it's like, oh, you know, it's cool, he found his own thing. But more recently, like, you know, I gave that speech earlier. I was like, man, I really feel like it's impressive. Like, he's really cool. I just feel like it continues in that kind of direction, you know? Like, he is just consistently, like, so... It's insane how he can just do that so consistently. Astrea is up 2-1, and maybe looking to dash the dreams and hopes of Trigger for this season.
Right. You know, we didn't maybe give it to due justice, because usually would have talked up this big narrative in the beginning of the first game. But it was the cheesiest thing a Protoss could have reduced. We didn't have time. But absolutely, Astrea has not been playing particularly well. It looks like the perfect time for his seat to be taken away, right? So Neeb left, so Astrea kind of got bumped up to the first in North America, because we're not talking about the Latin Americans that have joined in, because Scarlet wasn't doing so hot recently. And then he didn't play very well, Astrea, in the last couple of months. Trigger plays very well, is really putting in the hours. seemed like a perfect opportunity for Trigger to finally beat that #1 or #2 North American. And instead, now he is on his last life in the beginning of the Americas playoffs. Be a bit sad to see him go, honestly, but it might happen. Bottom right, it is Trigger.
Top left, our blue Protoss from Alpha X, a map away from semifinals. A place he's familiar with. It is Astrea.
It's like watching the president get taken out. So they're like, okay, what's the line of secession? And Trigger's like, ooh, 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 me. And they're like, no, technically, it's not you. It's his wife. And you're like, what? That's a terrible system. Poor Trigger if he loses here. Being vice president won't mean nothing.
It's like who's the president in this case? I have so many questions.
Astrea! He's the president of North America.
But Astrea's still
President.
here. Like, Trigger's trying to take out the president, so why would he be the successor?
Oh, that's true. It's more like
I thought maybe you
the Slayer rule.
I kind of thought maybe you were thinking like, Neeb's gone. He was the kind of the president of North America.
No, yeah.
And then Trigger's like, hey, this guy didn't put in the work lately. I should be president. And Astrea's like, shut up. I've been in line all this time.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Astrea is Neeb's wife. Even though Trigger's the vice president, they're like, you know what? Never mind. Oh, God. All right. We're off the rails here. It's really not even been that long of a cast. I think that hour-and-a-half break just did me in.
Honestly, we were doing pretty fine until the full-on NA proxy in game #1 of this series.
Yeah.
Like the players set us up for this, right? They set the tone of the series, and we're just following along with it. As worth noting, Trigger has a forward pylon, and now a very forward gateway, which Astrea knows about immediately. This is Astrea's turn to defend, because he went one gate expand, gateways on the high ground, Robo in the base as well. Well, that's going to be a very difficult defense, as Trigger is also going to drop down the robotics facility, and we get fully committed here. Away we go.
Doesn't care who sees it. Now, he doesn't have a single unit going across the map currently, because his depths were taking care of the scouting probe. So that pylon is maybe a little vulnerable, but, hopefully not. It's one stalker at a time, so yeah. He's fine.
That should be okay. Like I said, just the one gateway from Astrea makes us that a little bit weaker. If he had to, this would never get online, right? Like, to any sort of real extent, the 2 to 4 stalkers could just dive the pylon. 2 stalkers now might still try to dive the pylon, but the probe is here to build a second because he realizes it is a possibility. It's a little bit of extra time it takes to actually knock this down. I mean, you can still delay the Immortal from coming out for a while. Astrea, gonna get it.
Yeah. These 2 adepts need to help guard the pylons, man. Probe's gonna get targeted down in 2 shots. Now a stalker arrives for Trigger too, and that should do the trick.
Still not a bad delay though. You take the adepts away from the front line over here from doing damage, and you also delay the first Immortal. Now you're going to have your own Immortal pretty much at the exact same time, and of course your opponent's Immortal still has to take a few steps forward to join the fight over here, so kind of like it a lot for Astrea, as it feels like so far the setup's been very kind to him.
I think so, yeah. Depths continue to be blocked out from the main base. That is still absolutely pivotal. And with the second adept going down, that, I was going to say, shield battery should be canceled. Let the Immortal on the low ground to help defend the shield battery, which it doesn't defend anyways. The adept pops the Immortal shield of Astrea, and now Trigger has way more units than his opponent. And Astrea doesn't have any static defense to help him out. And now he's supply blocked, so that turned very quickly.
That was just a set of mistakes from Astrea. Like, he should have finished the Adept first because the Adept popped the Immortal's barrier, which is actually a pretty big deal in this case. He does now have a second Immortal. It needs to put in some serious work right here, and he is kind of doing it. The 2 Adepts go forward. It's just kind of a messy affair. Can we kill off this Immortal? No, not quite still. Just don't think Astrea is ever getting the units out he needs. Now a couple of sentries warping in. He is going to have the Prism for micro potential. He really needs to just get that Immortal or Trigger. I know it's quite far back, but it feels like such a necessary grab at this stage.
One Adept getting in is still going to be a bother, honestly. Even if there's a shield battery, which is not, so it's definitely going to be a bother. Yep. The War Prism will pop out. Yes. Yes, he could have. Should have, would have. But the Nexus is now down. And is this another game where we could get a macro? Game out of one base versus one base?
This time there's surely no way, I don't think. As soon as
Astrea,
as soon as how dare I? You're right, CG. I'm sorry. Yes, this is going to be a macro game. As you can see, these units are cut in half, so half of them will die, and then we macro from there with some sick prison micro.
Telling you. Oh, now there's other prison micro. Oh, and Astrea lost his immortal. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Can't macro from that. New immortal pops out straight into the firing line, and is not having a great time. Yeah, the defense from Astrea was obviously just a bit messy, and that really allowed for Trigger to take the advantage necessary to basically win this out. And that is GG's. We are going the distance to game number 5. The run for this Protoss American presidency is still on.
Exactly. Trigger's still eyeing that seat, even though he's Canadian. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Yeah, he's done it with some aggression. I really don't know what to say as the overall, like, theme of this best of 5, though, you know? I feel like at this point in game number 5, we've kind of usually picked up on what people are good at, what people are bad at, what is a good idea for one person to do more than the other thing. I have no idea. What do you think they're going to do?
Honestly, it feels like the aggression mostly works out, no? Like, have we had a game where the aggressor lost? I don't think so. Proxy
You're
worked.
right, because Trigger eventually won that game.
Yeah. So
Proxy eventually worked.
if I were these two, then I would just proxy the crap out of each other, all in, never look back, unbind the Nexus hotkey before the game begins, just in case you accidentally think about building one. Something along those lines.
Yeah, I think they should both go for proxies.
Yeah. It's gonna have a moment here as Trigger is just double checking the internets. The internets have not been people's friends today. They've given us a bit of a delay in our first match of Americas. Now Trigger's had a couple issues, so just waiting for him to get that sorted before we dive on into our final map of the day, ZG. Obviously, it's I guess Europe was kind of short when we had the long break, so you're right, it hasn't felt like a super long day, but we do pack a bit of StarCraft these days, don't we?
Yes, we do. Tomorrow's gonna have 6 best of 5s as well, but divvying up the regions.
Yeah, tomorrow we play region hopping. So we go from Asia to Europe to Americas. We do 2-2-2. Round of 8 and everything. So it's gonna be fun. It's I think I actually think tomorrow's games could be kind of interesting. Obviously, we get to dive into the quarterfinals of Europe as well, which means I believe because top 4 get the invite from Europe, right? So tomorrow's matches are those qualifying matches into the invites into the offline finals, for example, that go up for grabs. So that's going to be fun as well. More things to talk about and get people excited about as we are all set here in our final map of America's Day 1 playoffs. It is in the top left, Astrea from Alpha X.
In the bottom right, we do have the red Protoss for Basilisk, Trigger. Have you tried to say the full title of the Swiss group?
The full title of the Swiss group?
Mm-hmm.
Where is this?
All right, let me give you an example. Okay, so let's do Kellizer versus Disc on a Ligulac.
Oh, on a Ligulac?
As we watch a 1-gate versus 1-gate happen. Oh, they didn't play each other in the Swiss. Okay, so it's Kellizer versus Scarlet. Let's do that. All right. Okay.
Do you want me to just...
You ready for this one?
But I...
Yeah. Do you want to read it out loud for us?
But I just searched it as well. Do you want me to go or do you want to do it?
You go ahead, do it.
The ESL Pro Tour 2023-24 SC2 Masters 2023 Summer Regionals America's main event group stage round 2 upper, and then it ends. Hang on. Does it get longer if I stretch out? Oh no, just upper. It ends at upper.
It's such a mouthful.
Why is 2023 in there again? Because I guess it's like the Pro Tour for this entire year, and then the 2023 Summer. Oh my god. It's funny.
Yep, I had fun with that on Monday, looking up history between the two. But just so you guys could have some fun too.
That is a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
That is just a case of like, you know, when you first build a system and it kind of works, and then over time there's more tournaments, and you're kind of like, oh, it's fine if we just kind of add it on like this, or we do that to it. Then eventually it's just like, this really doesn't work anymore. It's like, but no one wants to update it. That is exactly what just happened.
The JRPG names of like sequels is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Where they just keep adding like totally useless words that doesn't make any sense. You're just like, what are you doing? Stop adding words.
Stop.
Oh, this is, you know what? I was with you. I thought the idea that the aggression working out in every single game, I mean, I believe is true. I believe you are right. But maybe the players haven't picked up on it or just aren't willing to risk it on game 5. We actually have ourselves a macro game because Astrea's going for a Stargate on one base, but it's a Stargate, and then Trigger's going for a Sentry.
Yeah.
So they're both going to expand eventually.
We are expanding. So the Sentry kind of fills the same role as the kind of the Stargate units in the sense of scouting. So scouting is obviously important. Knowing what you're up against is important. So both players will have that kind of available to them. And then, obviously, the tech's going to be different. Astrea will have the Stargate units to harass with. But the idea is that Trigger will likely have a faster blink, and the Stargate units try to do damage to offset that. And yeah, kind of weird that we just have to explain how a macro game works, given how this series has been.
I think one of them would be aggressive, but both of them taking the opportunity of a non-ramp map to go for 2 gateway high grounds. I mean, Astrea did lose with his last attempt to not do this on a non-ramp natural, right? Like, that last game with the 1 gate high ground expands did not do him any favors when it came to defending. So both of them just, I think just perhaps realizing if they both did the normal thing, it'd be okay. Twilight Council it is for both parties after Astrea's Oracle at the... Wait, is he only one Oracle? No, he's going to second one. So 2 Oracles still have that damage potential. The Twilight Council will be later.
Yep, that just means faster blink from Trigger, chance for him to get something done. Really is just, you know, trying to minimize what this Oracle can do to begin with. Going to go the long way around, so you enter from the side the mineral line the Stalkers are not at. That gives you 1 probe only. 3rd Stalker shows up for a volley. Just puts the Oracle that little bit lower in HP, so good to get that shot off. Now the second Oracle's going to come around the right side, heading to the natural this time.
Just going to try and divvy up the Oracles, hoping to find those shield batteries. And so far, Astrea is correct about that. And the Stalker's just slightly out of position. That's how you grab 3 or 4 probes. In that case, actually just literally 1. But you still have 2 Oracles, so eventually you can still bunch them up, and Trigger can never truly rely on just a shield battery to cover him. But he doesn't necessarily have to move out either. I mean, he can still play into a 3rd base, especially as his hallucination kind of confirms the follow-up here from Astrea. And then he still will have map control, even if he has to keep 1 Stalker or 2 Stalkers at home.
Yeah, even if you keep a couple back, you still have the ability to move out and have a couple more. Robo immediately from Trigger, by the way, which is really a bit of a, like, kind of interesting that you go Robo so fast. Usually the Robo, for the most part, at first, is typically like I'm a bit afraid you're making DTs, but he has the hallucinations to kind of check on what Astrea is up to, and I don't feel like there's been any need to build a Robo, because he's been able to see the Twilight upgrading from the very start, for example. Just this doesn't really add up in my eyes, so kind of interested about that. Wouldn't have been my guess that he would have Roboed so quickly here.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, it really would have been quite crazy of Astrea to go for Stargate, 2 Oracle, Blink, and also a Dark Shroud. But
yes, exactly.
Hey, just crazy enough it might have worked, Wardy.
It is America.
Taking any chances.
Logic goes out the window. Yeah, I mean, obviously don't mind the idea of being safe, just, I feel like this time, you know, at this level, we oftentimes see the pros making decisions based on very minimal things. He's actually not really kind of being safe either. He's actually just going for an Immortal, so maybe he's afraid of Astrea just setting up for an aggressive attack, but Astrea sets up a 3rd base. None of that's really happening at all, and yeah, obviously the Immortal's nice to buff up the army a little bit, just, like I say, it wasn't the most necessary of investments. Stalkers alone would have been kind of fine in this case, and it still will be for the moment until that Immortal is out to aid in the defense. Astrea is maybe going to be the one poking, but I mean, Trigger also has force fields available here if he wants to try and cut a couple Stalkers off for a couple moments. We actually get blinked on. As Astrea, 2 more Stalkers for a moment. Again, once the Immortal shows up, this should even out the fight.
I think just a little delayed on that force field. Didn't think about it initially. But I could have sworn he would have heard the stasis trap. I suppose if his camera was on it, I guess that's a big difference. So I don't know if he knows about it, but fortunately he's not pushing out. Unfortunately, Adepts once again causing problems for Trigger in this case. 8 probes go down, complete probe pool. He doesn't know about the stasis trap, so a lot of the stalkers get caught off, and Astrea is looking for victory actually right here, right now. As the Immortal goes down, the other stalkers are not going to be helped very much. 2 shield batteries might not cut it. Astrea's one-shot and everything. Trigger's in a lot of trouble.
Yep, one-shots are pretty good. These Stalkers in the stasis do not have Blink, by the way, as well, so they are going to be in trouble the moment they come out. They're just going to start dying. They can't do anything but stand and fight. Here come the Stalkers from Trigger blinking in to try and aid. Here's a new Immortal, going to have its barrier popped. We do have batteries available here, and we'll finally turn on to the Immortal as Astrea didn't fully commit through, but man, he's just still doing damage. Oracle in the main base is going huge and getting a lot done as well. And as we just back away, we're going to get this Immortal eventually, and Trigger, it's just all falling apart in these last few moments.
Wardy, that Oracle didn't die.
No!
The stalker didn't get the last shot.
Oh my god.
It's been killing probes. It got like 8 more probes, man. Oh, Trigger is so dead. He is so dead. Astrea with a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch.
How does he have so many arms? It's not fair.
He's actually Doc Ock. It's crazy. It's crazy imbalance. It's so unfortunate because this was one of the least wild games. Trigger did kind of fall into, well, a trap, and they did not handle Adepts well, which he was the one that didn't handle them well given the opportunity, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't remember how the games went.
Yeah, he definitely. Adepts have been killers today in PvPs, man. I mean, I think back to the Skillets Adepts against TNS, they were nasty as well. But yeah, this was just. Honestly, I really feel it comes down to the Robo, right? Where it's like, if he didn't build the Robo and he just built a few more Stalkers, I don't think any of this ever happens. Like, he's never kind of behind at the front. He can probably pay a bit more attention to defending the Adepts because he's just fine at the front in the first place more easily. And I don't know, it just feels like this entire thing just kind of went kind of off the rocket because he was almost just being a bit overly defensive based on what he needed to do. But obviously, I mean, even with the Immortals, he should have been able to defend. I just feel like it's had a kind of a knock-on effect in a way. Any which way, we do have ourselves Astrea very heavily up in supply, and the only thing he doesn't have is +1, which is in favor of Trigger at the moment, but Astrea will have it soon enough, and with the Prism coming out, pushing potential is increasing once again.
Yes, indeed. Yep, I don't know what Trigger's plan in recovery is, but usually would say Robotics Bay.
Yeah, Robot Bay or Dark Shrine, right? It's, you know, pick your poison, DTs or Disruptors. That's kind of how you get back into these games, or I guess today, just 2 Adepts and just watch them kill like 3 Mineral Lines. That's also been a strategy. We are going to move around each other, both players kind of losing track of the other's armies, or never really looking for them in the first place. If this does become a base trade, it's absolutely better for Astrea. He has so much more army to base trade with, it's not even close, so... I mean, to be fair, maybe the base trade craziness is better for Trigger, because he wouldn't win a straight-up fight anyways. I think there's maybe more chance if Trigger was defending with batteries that he would be able to do something, whereas now he's kind of just going to lose, I think.
Unless Dark Shrine was in play, even then.
That's a very hopeful Dark Shrine building now.
Yes, oh my god, yes, that is very hopeful indeed. But even though that's a good idea in a base trade, Astrea would still have to know, have no Observer or no Oracle, and actually Astrea just recalls, realizing that he's going to take the advantage no matter how he slices it. And that isn't even in the extent of his damage. Astrea is still doing damage with the Warp Prism and taking care of the attack from Trigger. Astrea just wins on both fronts.
Yep. Astrea just wins in pretty much every single way. Extrazel's just warping in the base. I mean, we do see the recall home now. I will kill the Prism, sure, but this just says to Astrea, come across the map and kind of finish killing me, because now everything's back at home and you can kind of focus on just doing that. So Astrea in a very comfortable position here. +2 finishes from Trigger. He is moments away from the Dark Shrine. We actually start a second Observer because obviously Astrea saw the Dark Shrine, so he's just going to make sure he's absolutely okay against DTs. He does have a cannon in at least the 3rd base, in the main base, just not in the natural anymore. But yeah, I think we can obviously see the 70 supply lead is pretty good for Astrea.
No way Trigger comes back from this one, but I would love it if he did. He's taking a hidden Nexus. Love it.
He does have
going for DTs in the main.
I was going to say, he has the secret superpower, ZG, of this being the Americas region, where quite literally anything can happen.
He's all inning. He's gambling on a lot of DTs, causing a lot of damage, but with a cannon available, it'll buy not that long, but it will buy some time. And then the Observers close to home. The timing. Okay, Astrea was starting to move out, but He pulls back. The DTs just should not be able to do as much damage. I mean, they're hitting both the bases with cannons. Yes, they will kill it, but that is just the alerts I think that Astrea needs to make sure that it doesn't take game-changing damage. This is the way I'll put that one. Yeah, 13 probes not enough, even though Astrea is now down in workers.
Yeah, down in workers just doesn't mean anything when the rest of Trigger's army is this. This looks like a small harassing squad. That's the army. Like, that is it. So, Astrea just splits his army in half, and he can defend at home with half, which is completely overkill, but the other half can also just win across the map. That is the situation we are in. And, yeah, I mean, you know, we said you have to do something here as Trigger to get back into it, and DTs are definitely one of those options. It was not a bad idea. You can see how it could have worked if it was any closer, right, in the first place. But this just wasn't close in the first place, so even though they did tremendous damage, there was just too much kind of being asked for here, and Astrea just going to kill off a couple of pylons. Obviously doesn't know about the hidden base. That's also going to be a way to stay alive. We do not currently have an observer here either, so the game goes on.
Yeah. Astrea does have an observer nearby, so it'll be joining up soon, and once it joins up, Trigger is dead. Perhaps if his harassment DTs had not died, you know, maybe they don't do literally any damage, but they're literally just threatening. Maybe that could have bought in an extra 30 seconds to a minute, and then Trigger's still screwed, but still.
I was going to say, and then what?
But with Astrea cleaning things up, now he knows that all he needs to do is go across the map. But he's still hesitant, and DT's coming in to buy some time. He's going to go looking around probably for a proxy pylon or the warp prism, and he's going to find the Nexus. And that was the only thing Trigger had that Astrea did not know about.
Yeah, Astrea's like, oh, you're really ready for a base trade, huh? That's a fun find. Obviously, this base doesn't last long. We recalled a couple probes here out of it, so a couple got away. But again, I mean, as Trigger attacks across the map, Astrea just has so much here to kind of greet this. And again, this is such a small portion of Astrea's army, and yet it's absolutely everything that Trigger can afford to send across the map. So just not really a fair fight. And yeah, it does feel as though we are pretty much at the tail end of this game, this series. It's obviously turned into a bit of an anticlimactic ending because we've seen the end coming from a mile away, maybe even 2.
Indeed.
But yeah.
Couple of miles.
Yeah, a couple hundred soon.
Yeah. I mean, good on Trigger for staying in. If there is a slim chance, but technically a chance, then I would say stay in it for your last life in the overall tournament. Trigger really was, I think, sized up to be the best chance yet for him. Sizing him up versus Astrea as of today, before these games